Hi everybody, this is Pramita here, and today we're going to start the Masterboard notebook collage, whatever you want to call it, on this in this brochure because I had asked this question in my previous video, which one would you like me to work on? So most of you wanted me to work in this brochure, and that works fine for me because this is a bit wider also, and I'm not worried if the writing will show through or anything of that sort, because in any case I'm going to be cover the back up with some cardstock or thick paper. So let's start this project right away. So if you're new to my channel, then please think of subscribing, and if you have been here for a while, then thank you for being there with me. And if you are a new subscriber, then thank you so much for your support. This would mean a lot to me. I have been meaning to start this for a while, but something or the other is cropping up, and this is my second time I'm filming this, because the first time my phone ran out of memory, because I do most of my filming on my phone. So I had to clear some things out and make space, whatever. So I'm not going to make this video too long, but don't try to skip any part of this video, because if you do, then you're going to miss some important tips that I'm going to be sharing along the way. What happens is I just don't list out things right at the beginning, but I know what I want. So as I go along, I start sharing those little tips and nuggets of information that might be helpful to you, or you might know it. It's just that it's kind of remembering again sort of thing, or reminding you again, that's it. So, and it's not that this will work for you also, but it works for me, so that's the main reason why I'm sharing this. Everybody has their own process of working through, and this is just my way of using up scraps, because when you're making journals and when you're creating art projects or crafty things, then most of the time what happens is you land up with a lot of paper scraps. Now what to do with that? So you can create more. That's what we are going to do. And I have shared lots of ideas whereby you can use up your scraps. I think I have a playlist in my channel, playlist. You can go and check, use up your scraps. So that's the playlist. Probably I'm going to be adding these to the playlist also, because these are basically scraps which I'm not going to be using anywhere else, which are going to make way into this notebook, and then we can cut this down as we please. So the first thing I'm going to do is start working. That's the best thing. So I'm having my coffee, and I am a little bit anxious to get this done, because I have never shared my big process beginning, not the process beginning, the start of a project like this. I have shared bits and pieces in between, but never ever have I shared something like this from the very beginning. So this is just a brochure. I'm just going to give you the size of this. Just a minute. So I have my ruler here. So it measures around 9 inches by 11 inches. So this is pretty big. 9 by 11 is like you're a little bit more wide than your letter size measurement. So this is a pretty good size, and you can play around a lot. So the smaller, actually the thing is that the smaller the size of the workspace is, your playing around area becomes smaller, okay? But on the other hand, if you start collaging on a 12 by 12 sheet of paper, you might feel overwhelmed because it's a large space that you need to cover. On the other hand, if you start with something like this, then you can strike a balance between the both. And also the size of the paper has to be medium. It need not be very large. So probably you can use 6 to 7 pieces of paper to cover one portion up if you so feel. We'll do different techniques and see which one looks best, because at the end of the day you're going to cut up, so you won't be able to see the entire thing at once. That's good. And another thing is that even if you mess up, don't forget this is just paper and we can always cover it up. So initially when I started the collage process, I used to be very indecisive, like what should I use, how will it look better? And then along the way, what I realized was, okay, so if it isn't looking fuller, if it isn't looking complete, I can add something to it to make it look fuller, to make it look more complete and more filled out rather. So you can do that. So there's no worries of going wrong. There's nothing right or wrong in things like this. But personally, what I do is I try to keep the papers in a rectangular or square shape. That is that makes things a little bit easier. I'll tell you what. While I talk you through the process, let's begin the process also. So what I do is I start from the middle. Okay, so this is the middle of the brochure. Just let me show you. So this is the middle of the brochure. Now why am I using the middle? This is getting pretty dark, so I had to fix the lighting a little bit. And now why I'm starting from the middle? Simple, because it's easy to tear. Because whenever I want something to tear, I can just pull out from the center. That's it, nothing else. So I'm going to start from the middle. Another thing is, as I said, I would rather go with rectangular and square shaped papers than odd shaped ones, but that doesn't mean you cannot do that. You can obviously do that. And personally, I prefer rectangular sheets. If you don't have a rectangle, you can cut it down to a smaller rectangle if the situation is such. But it's totally up to you. Basically, I personally prefer rectangles. So I'm going to go through some of the paper stash that I have that I want to use, and you'll see most of them are a very neutral kind of color that I will be choosing. Now these are scraps that I have. These are not all scraps. Let me make this clear. Some of the pages are not scraps, but I would like to use them up in this way because they have been lying with me for a while and have not used them. So I can't let them just lay there and do nothing. So why not use these up? So that's the whole idea. And I'm going to be cutting these down into rectangles, which I'll show in a minute. And also I have I will be adding some more papers. So mostly these are these will be in a very monotone kind of colors. Not monotone, I will say, but in a very background color sort of thing, so that it's easy for me to work on them later on. So like I can tear this part up, these papers, and then I have these papers. So let's start by chopping things up. Okay, and then I have this. So you can see these are more or less on the grungy side, and that doesn't matter because we can always jazz them up after we have cut through. So now the next thing is, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my scissors to trim the white sections. Okay, this paper I think I had tea dyed also, so it is more on the grungier side. And what I'll do is I'll just pick off the white, and then if you want you can trim down the sides. Let me look for my cutter or trimmer, whatever. Sorry, I had to reach ahead. So what I'll do is I'll just trim this side off. I could have done it with a ruler, but when I have a trimmer, then let's make use of it. So Now what I'll do is, now I'm going to be cutting this down in rectangular shapes. So this is one, then this is from Artimaze. I think it is called some vintage botanicals. It's a really good grungy kit. So if you're looking for some grunge in your journals, go for it. This is again another one. So this is, I think, is called Garden Notes. This is from LG Bell's bookshelf, but she has renamed her shop since then, and it is now called Journal Mama or something of that sort. I'm not sure, so don't quote me on that. This is a full sheet, so probably I'm going to not use this right away, and I'll see how much I can salvage from these scraps, and then I will be making use of them. So I'm going to be doing this off camera, and I'll come back and show you how these pieces have turned up. So I'm back after cutting these down. I have kept some of the papers as big big ones, because I don't know how I'm going to use them right away. So we're going to start off by I'll just show you what stash I have. So you can see these are pretty very much neutral backgrounds, and I've cut them down into rectangles. And if I have something like this, I'll just use my scissors to trim this down. This is going to make collaging a little bit easier because they are in rectangles. So I have these scraps. Again, I can cut this down into smaller pieces. So this is what I have, and I'll start by laying things down. So the first thing I'm going to do is let me move this. So I'm going to keep these papers over here, and I don't usually have any plan when I'm using them, but I try to follow the rule of threes, or you can do it as you like, but anyways you won't see it as a whole, so it doesn't matter whether they are in threes or not. So I'm just going to start off like this, and the initial stage is a little bit like being indecisive what I want and what would look nice, but then slowly along the way, I'm just going to move this so you'll have an idea. Slowly along the way you'll get a brief view on what might look okay. So like this is very neutral, so I'm going to probably put this like so. Let me lift the camera a little bit more so that I hope this is visible. Okay, so I have this bit. Probably I'll use it somewhere here just to offset these. Okay, and then I don't think too much when I'm starting this layering process, because as I said, these are the just some basic layers that we are working on. So and eventually I'm going to cut this off, so it doesn't matter whether it's perfect or not. Like this here. Let this stay. Okay, and then I'll probably so if you cut the papers into smaller bits, what happens is automatically you sort of create a cohesive background, and so what I would advise is select a bunch of 5 to 10 papers and then cut them down into smaller rectangles like this, and try to work within those parameters. So that will give you a very cohesive background for at least 2 or 3 sheets or 3 papers like this. Then you can cut these down. So if I want, I can put something like this. I'll have to cut that down, see. Or I have a tiny scrap that I can use over here. Let's see. Now if there are tiny gaps, I can always cover them up. I'm not worried so much about that, so I can cover the gaps up. So what I will do is so one thing I don't like is everything is aligned in this way. So I'm going to be doing this one over here, so that the alignment is in all directions, not all in the longitudinal fashion or all are tall or rectangular ones. There should be some. Okay, I'm going to remove this. This is really this might be irksome to some people because it takes a little bit of time, and when I'm in confusion of something, I usually don't mess with that. I just leave it as it is and move on, do something else, go back to doing something else, and then probably I'll come back to it later on. So I'm just trying to figure out. Okay. So it's constant, rearranging of things, you can say. I don't want that too much of same color. I want a little bit of variation, so I can use this. Okay, so I can use this, and I have these two. Okay, so let's start gluing things down. For now I'm going to be having this over here. So I'm going to start gluing things down. You need a good quality glue stick, or if you're using a gel medium, you can do that also. I will be using a glue stick and start gluing things down. So I'm just going to speed up the process a little bit, or probably I'll just start doing the gluing thing and then do some off camera, because this is what it is. So you can pause and take a screenshot or whatever, but I just have this in my mind. I know what I want, so I'm just going to remove some of the stuff and then work on them. So I'm going to remove this part, okay, and this part, and I'll start gluing from the side. So I'm going to just start gluing and make sure that everything has a good coverage. And so what I'll do is, if you want to make this a very sturdy project of some sort, then you can definitely use glue 2 sheets together and then you can do this, but for me this works out. So I have this ruler. This is actually for angular measurements and I will be using that. So as I said, I know in my head what were the things that I had lined up, so I'll stick with that. And if I change my mind, then that's okay too. So I'm going to cover this up, but I don't spend too much of time pondering what to use and what should I use, what would look best. No use pondering, because you can always, as I said, because you can always cover it up with something else. And I remember one thing, you know, all messed up. That's fine. I had glued this over here. Placed it over here. So I'm going to glue this down. Whichever ones I'm sure of, or the larger pieces, I go with that. And then I'm going to go with the other stuff. So I'm going to use this over here. Okay, and then I'm going to be dragging this at the top because I want a little bit into the space itself. It looks nice if you place it at different heights. I always talk about placing things at different heights. That gives a nice look. So what I'll do is I'll just place this like so. I'm going to place it like this. Okay, so I don't need this this bit, and I'll just trim this off. Okay, it is going to be filled out. Just so this was one of the scraps that I wanted to use just to bring a kind of semblance to the entire thing, making sense, you can say. But I will also be adding some printables like post stamps, labels, whatever. So I'm going to be, again, one thing I remember is that I had wanted to so I'm going to pull this aside. Okay, so let me fold this down. Yeah, I think this is better. So this gives me enough room to play and film. Okay, so I'm going to be gluing this down. Okay. So if it is not straight, that's fine. I can always come back later and trim the extra off. That's fine. Okay, so now I'm going to be putting this down. So I'm going to be putting this down like so. So I've taken this off. You can move the papers around initially when you have just put the glue. You use the glue stick, but later on it gets, because I've not used that ruler, so I can move them around right now, but soon there will be no room for changing my mind. So now is the time when I'm going to use the ruler, and this one needs, since I have already lifted that up, this needs a little bit more glue. Okay, so I can put this over here. Yeah, so just glue this. Once you decide on the pages what you want to lay down, it doesn't take much time. It just comes together. And so I'm going to be using my ruler. Okay, now we have this space to play with. So I had placed this one, so I'm going to be placing this like this. Okay, so I'm just going to glue this. So it might be a little different from what I had laid down, because at that point of time I had this in my mind. I was not sure how actually they're going to look, but now, you know, it is different. So I might not do this part because this was not originally planned to be here, but now I want this to be here. It changes, you know, you sometimes, you know, when you place them, what happens is you find that it's looking a little bit different from what you had envisioned. So it might be, you know, it's possible you can change it. That's okay. You don't have to be. So I don't know how this big this video is going to be. Hopefully I finish this within half an hour. So that's done, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to place this over here, but this will not cover the entire part. So probably what I'll do is I go with this. Okay, again, I'm not going to be using the entire thing. Yeah, so I'm going to be using up this. So you can see for yourself how easily you can transform a brochure that was of no use to you perhaps into something that will be pretty useful. In the next part, I'm going to cut down this page. I still have this part to cover, and I'll show you how I will cover this up. So this part, no, I don't like this, so I'm going to be using this. Okay, so I'll just in the next part I'll show you the second layer that I'm going to be adding to this page, and probably some other pages that I've already worked on, hopefully. Keep it aside, and this one I'm going to place here. They are not perhaps exact rectangles. Some are a little bit wonky, but eventually when you cover most of this up, it wouldn't matter. So I'm going to keep it for later use. I need to find out some other scraps that I can use. You can use washi tapes, you can use other scraps also if you have. Like I have the scrap, and what I'm going to do is I'll just cut this down, and so again, I don't throw these scraps away in case I need them to cover some space up. So I'm going to be cutting this down, but this is not straight, so I'll just, you can use washi tapes as I said. I'll show you in the next part how you can put accents to these using washi tapes and labels and, you know, different things. So this is covered. Now we need to cover this part, this tiny bit where I had plans of gluing this down. So I'm going to put this, sorry. I hope we are good within the half an hour period, and there will be these weekly updates whereby I'll share how much I have completed in this glue book. And in the next part I will show you how you can add accents to page like this, and also if I have finished any other page, which probably I will, because I really need to use up some of the scraps, or some pages which I'm not using right away. I can always print them up later on, because I have very little space for storage, and no space designated for crafting as such. So this is space crunch, and I'm always looking for things whereby I can maximize the space that I already have, whatever little space I have. So this is the first page that we have done in this brochure master board collage. So keep watching for the next part, where I'll show you how you can add accents to the already created page, and then I will show you how we can cut this down and make certain ephemera pieces. So thank you everybody for watching this. Bye, have a great day, and if you like this video, then please give it a thumbs up. It would mean a lot to me, and try and comment a little below, so that would motivate me to make more videos. And of course, you'll get all the links in the description box. You can choose to support me in any way you want. Thank you for all your support. Bye, have a great day.